Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to today's take. This is a real great conversation we're about to have with a legend in the business here, Lawrence Roulston. Lawrence has decades long of expertise and experience in the field here. Many of you will know him from his newsletter, Resource Opportunities. And I would urge you to go look, and we're going to go through some of the wins we had that Lawrence has had. Pretty shockingly good, astonishing. And we want to talk to Lawrence about what that looked like back then, what the market looked like back then, some of the wins that can happen. I mean, he's got results. He's got 30 different wins that range somewhere between 500 to 5,000%. They're insane. So we wanted someone here who's lived through it, who's seen it, and then to find out how does he find these companies under the kind of bigger umbrella that he really is Mr. Golden Triangle. He knows everything about the Golden Triangle here in BC. And then also we'll pick his brain about some of the companies he's actively involved in that he's really loving and liking right now, that he's either on the board of or he is with Mountain Boy, president CEO right now, and see what attracted him to that project in particular. So we get a good chance here to talk about a whole bunch of things with someone who's seen every market conceivable in the mining sector. And it's a real pleasure to have you here today, Lawrence. Welcome.
Thanks very much for that very kind introduction, Andrew. A lot of fun. And just to clarify, the newsletter is a long time in the past.
Yeah.
I'm entirely on the other side of the market now. I'm involved in several different companies, but I can't break the habit of just keeping an eye on what's happening in the market. And having seen the market through multiple cycles, looking out there right now at what's happening, it really is a unique situation. I've never seen anything like this in all the years that I've been in this industry.
So now that's an interesting perspective. So unique in that there's very big opportunity, or it's a bit frightening, or what's your overall kind of take right at this juncture?
Oh, it's definitely an opportunity, but you've got to be very, very selective right now. If you look at the chart of the venture exchange, which is probably the best proxy of the junior resource markets, I don't think we're ever going to get back to the glory days, of 3,000 plus on the venture exchange. There's too many companies out there that and a lot of those companies in this market are not going to come back, and it's unfortunate, and that's going to weight down the average. I don't think we're going to get to a point where we have that tide that's going to lift all boats again. But having said that, individual companies that are generating results, that have got good projects, that have got good people behind them, are definitely getting a response in the market. But it's very selective. We're in the reason I said it was an unprecedented market, we've got a record high gold price. We've got good solid copper, silver prices, other metals at good prices. The producers are making massive amounts of cash right now, profits. They're sitting on great hoards of cash, but the exploration companies are still really in the toilet. And it's hard to get people's attention. But let's bear in mind, for every share that's being dumped right now, somebody is buying it.
Yes.
And my sense is the people that are buying right now at this low point in this market cycle are the same people that bought at the bottom of the last market cycle and the previous one. These are the people that know that this is a cyclical market. You buy low, you sell high. And right now prices are down. This is a time to buy. But be selective. And look for companies that have got good projects and good people behind them.
So let's take a look here, because you started back was it 1989 that Resource Opportunities started?
99.
99. And what do you think is the big catalyst or difference between that market? Definitely a different technological period of time as well. But when you started and you said all ships can rise. If you get a cycle, boom, everything goes up, it inflates, whether they're good, bad, indifferent. But then the ones that are really good, they lift off. You're saying that's probably likely over. What do you think has changed in the market that would mean that is likely not to occur?
Well, you go back to 99, and gold was roughly $300 an ounce. Copper price was at an all-time low in real terms. Silver price was way down. Everything was down. And there was talk that the mining industry was a sunset industry. It was going to fade away and disappear. So really negative outlook on the market. But then China came along, the gold price started to move, and we had this incredible bull market in the mining industry in general. Now we've got high metal prices, we've got producers making big profits, but I think part of what's happened along the way is every time we have a cycle, and we've been 3 or 4 cycles along that time, that investors tend to pile in at the top of the market.
Yes.
And it's really, really unfortunate. And you know, when I was doing the newsletter, that's something that I kept harping on. I said, buy low, sell high, the tops of the market, take some profits, at the bottom, load up. But that's not the way most investors do it. Prices are high because there are so many buyers. And the people that are coming in at the top of the market, they've been burned and then they were burned again because they came in at the top of the cycle,
Yeah.
and they rode it over the top, and then it went crashing down. So I think a lot of those people have left, and they're never going to come back.
Yeah.
The people that are in the market now are the ones that understand this is a cyclical industry, and they're loading up for the next upcycle. But those people are being very selective. They're not buying across the board. They're looking for management teams that know what they're doing, and they're looking for good projects that have big upside potential.
I guess the lesson there is that there's still the upside potential. It's just you have to put a little bit more work in. Like if you're interested in the space, it's going to demand that you put a little bit of effort. You'll pull out the Cedar Files or watch enough of Rick Rule or yourself or anyone who's commentating on things and maybe mentioning a company here and there. But it's going to take a little hard work for people to go, you know, what if I'm interested, where should I be looking in this giant kind of junior market?
Exactly right. Exactly right. There's 2,000 or so, you know,
Yeah.
companies in this space in this country. It's way too many, and you can't just go out and buy them. Sorry. You need to be very, very selective, and that's a key point here.
Now, what do you think? And we're going to get into some of those kind of, to some degree, details if you're willing to share. Do you think the influx of like the ETFs, the kind of more people being less interested in investing themselves, possibly crypto and Bitcoin and these types of things, do you think that is also stealing some of that venture cap speculative money that normally people would say, boom, we've got a commodity cycle, we've got good prices, they like the narrative over the energy transition, boom, let's go. Do you think that's stealing some of the thunder?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, it takes a lot of effort to identify a specific company in this space that has good prospects, or to develop a short list of companies and, you know, build a portfolio around that short list. Look, Bitcoin is worth more than the entire global mining industry.
I know
It's shocking. You know,
yeah.
Basically a concept has more value than all the companies, the producers, the metal deposits, the process plants, all that equipment. And it doesn't have as much value as the concept of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which in my mind represents an incredible opportunity that you can get real assets that are generating positive cash flow, or that have huge upside potential on the basis of a discovery. And the entire industry is worth less than Bitcoin.
It is a shocking, and I think it will be a lesson that people are going to have to learn. And I mean, I'm not necessarily taking a swipe at Bitcoin, but we always remind people, you don't get to have a Bitcoin unless you have the energy, which means the metals, to make the chips, to make the processors, to deliver the energy, to have the computer power to make one Bitcoin. To me, I always want to look back and go, okay, what do I need to make these technological things, and do we have enough of it?
Well, Andrew, you can take it one step further, and there's nothing around any of us on this planet that doesn't either contain metal or need metal to make it and deliver it to us. And mining is vital to everything we do as a society. And you know, just staying with fundamentals for a second here. Mines are finite and they're depleted, and they need to be constantly renewed. You need new deposits all the time. And on top of that, demand for metals is increasing. If you look at the copper, for example, demand for copper is expected to double over the next couple of decades. That means a lot of new mines. And almost all of those new mines are going to be built on deposits that are being or have been discovered by junior mining companies. So the junior mining companies are vital to the future of the mining industry, and mining is essential to everything we do. So, but you've got to find companies that are most likely to make the discovery.
Yeah, so we lost Lawrence. The connection here dropped off, but we're going to ask him a bit about his kind of approach and how he goes about identifying companies he likes, and certainly we'll lead into Mountain Boy as well, which he is the president and CEO of currently. But while we're waiting on that, I want to kind of remind people of that kind of opportunity that does exist in this space, and you will ask, Lawrence is when he comes back on, what it looked like back when he first started, if the mining companies themselves were more doing some of the exploration themselves, where it's being outsourced basically to all the juniors who are spending money. Oh, I think we might have Lawrence back. Oh no, we're still waiting to connect. And that's we've got Lawrence back. Hi, Lawrence. We definitely hear you, Lawrence.
Andrew, I can't hear, and I can't figure out what to do to get it back.
Okay, no problem. Maybe we'll have Adam jump in and maybe just kind of. There we go. We see you. Can you hear me? I see you here, but I think you just need to find the mute button down your left-hand corner. There should be a button that says mute stop cam settings on the left. If you click on that, it should unmute you. There, but I can hear you. No. I'll just keep on speaking here. So yeah, the space has it works like R&D with the exploration companies, and there's that argument that either there's not enough money that goes around to fund that, which I would say is true to a large part, or you have the flip side saying, well, wait a second, there's been great raising of money for like solid projects in the last year, and people say, oh, we've got Lawrence back.
Hi, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just went blank.
No problem. That's the wonderful and terrible thing with technology. Sometimes it does that, and then we realize we're at its whims.
Yes.
Which actually is a great kind of segue into your everything virtual. That's all it takes, and boom, poof, it's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're glad to have you back. And what I was just kind of rambling on about was. When you first started, and I certainly don't know this, were the majors at that point, were they doing a lot more exploration themselves? Like, did that get that kind of the way I look at it is the R&D or the exploration side? Did that get farmed out like over time, or was it always, hey, exploration, that's R&D, we'll go fund it, then we'll buy you if you find something?
I think going way back, even before when I started the newsletter. The majors relied heavily on the juniors. That's why the junior sector has become so dominant in the industry, is because they've been so much more successful. And in pretty much any industry, it's the small companies that are the innovators that come up with the new discoveries. And in mining, it's even more so. And in one of the presentations, in fact, I did a presentation recently where I showed some slides. A day in the life of a geologist, and you've got guys that are commuting to work. It's like for a geologist, taking a helicopter is like taking an Uber to work.
Yeah.
and you're flying around mountains in wild weather conditions, and then you land and you're climbing over cliffs and grizzly bears in the area. Look, rational people don't do that sort of thing for a salary. And if you work for a major, you're working for a salary. So
Yes.
people that are prepared to put their lives on the line, that have got confidence that they're going to make a discovery, they work for the juniors. They
Yes.
become owners. When they're successful, they get very, very wealthy. And to a large extent, that's why in the mining industry, even more so than other industries, it's the small companies that are the innovators.
It's a nice way to look at that. Like say, because we always like to try to attract young people, so they go. The amount of need we have for either mining engineers, prospectors, geologists, the whole gamut is huge. That should excite a lot of people to think, wait a second, I get to go say fly up to northern BC, bomb around a bunch of mountains, hang off of cliffs. Like, yeah, it's crazy talk, but it's also there's a lot of people that think that's actually very exciting. And it's this modern version of like a prospector gold rush, except you also have to come with a big education behind because you can do a lot of science as well.
Oh, the science in the exploration industry right now is as sophisticated as science in any industry. It's incredibly complex, sophisticated science. And look, a lot of the people in this industry, bright young people with master's degrees and PhDs, and they're applying leading edge technology, science to making discoveries. Think about it. You're looking for a gold deposit. You know, the average gold deposit in the world is 1 part per million. And think about determining hundreds of meters below the surface an occurrence of a metal that has 1 part per million. It takes a lot of very sophisticated science, but these junior companies, they do it. They've been very successful at it. They're making a lot of discoveries. And if I could just segue a bit here, another really important thing that's happening in the industry right now is the majors, because of the high metal prices, they're making a lot of money, and they're out there and they're looking to replenish their reserves. They're buying companies. Goldfields bought Osisko recently for $2.1 billion.
Yes.
Philo being bought, really interesting, a joint venture between BHP and Lundin Mining. Coeur Silvercrest, $1.7 billion. First Majestic, $1 billion to buy Gatos. Now, those targets are all more advanced than the kind of companies that you and I are talking about right now. But not that long ago, they were struggling juniors.
Yep.
And they've evolved to this $1 billion valuation. But more to the point at the moment, those billions of dollars that are being re-injected back into the industry are, at least part of that is going to get recycled back to the smaller companies as these investors take their profits and go looking for the next $1 billion takeover.
And this is a good segue into how you've looked at some in the past, because like you said, there's say 2,000, 2,500 in total juniors. I think it's safe to say half of them could disappear. And that, even if it's that they're raising 200,000 here or 300,000 there, that money could be refocused to, like you said, the next higher grade of project, rather than just, hey, we think we might be onto something. To no, hold on, we've got targets, we've got things, we need money that we think we can develop. That would give a lot of benefit to the system as well. And how? Oh, we may have lost Lawrence here again. The to see that flow of capital into projects like Mountain Boy, and certainly Lawrence is on an advisor on the board of a number of different companies, but I know that he is leading the charge over at Mountain Boy, and we're going to get him to chat a little bit about Mountain Boy as well. And then under this kind of umbrella of all of these deals being made on the big scale, we've got VRIC coming up here in January, not too far off. Hi, Lawrence. We're back.
Hi, sorry, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm obviously going to have to fix something before we do this again.
It's no problem. We're live right now, so I mean, just if you can just bear with us, maybe we'll if we could try, if it heads out again, we'll do another time. But
okay,
I was going to ask, like, what you were saying in regards to you've got a number of companies you're on the board. You know the Golden Triangle. We'll get into that. But with Mountain Boy, let's talk a little bit about Mountain Boy. That's the one you're really leading the charge with today, under that bigger umbrella of all these majors are doing billion-dollar deals, and I think McEwen Copper is looking for $2.5 billion for next year. It's a big IPO. Do you think coming into VRIC and PDAC in the next, just not too far distant future, that all these majors are going to be sniffing around, going, "All right, let's look again at your data"?
They're absolutely sniffing around, and but by the way, we changed the name. It's now called MTB Metals.
MTB. Okay,
and,
sorry. Yes.
And MTB is in active discussion with several of the majors right now. They've been sniffing around. We first, going back to Roundup a year ago. They all came around. They looked at it. They liked it. It's a long, slow process with these guys. And but at the moment we are in active discussions with a number of majors, and it's earlier stage than they would like, so they're a bit hesitant, but they can see the huge upside potential, and they're very interested from that perspective. And who knows what's going to happen here, but they certainly recognize that the project has very, very large scale potential, and could be meaningful even for the largest of the mining companies.
And that makes a big difference because of the scope and scale. And like I said before, the Golden Triangle and resounding area like no one else. So what's up there, or the potential up there, what's advancing in development. And if a couple of them really take off and start developing, that whole area opens up pretty quickly as well. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, it's already very open.
Yeah.
A couple of the majors are up there in a very big way right now. Newmont, it's one of their main areas in the world. And the majors that aren't there really, really want to get a stake in it. And you've got huge companies like Seabridge.
Yes.
And again, not that long ago, Seabridge was a struggling junior, and it's now a $2 billion company.
Yes.
And they're looking to develop a multi-billion-dollar project, which someone is going to buy them and develop that project.
Yes.
So there's a lot of interest in the area, and that interest is growing steadily. The majors want a part of it.
And one of the challenges, though, especially with today's investor, is patience, which I never like to talk about because I'm not great with patience. But there's a little bit extra patience when you're up north too, because it is like a cycle within a cycle. Like you do have a season of drilling, and then unfortunately we have to wait for drill results, and that requires an investor who's a bit more patient. Is that fair to say?
Oh, no question. Yes, it definitely takes a lot of patience. The season is reasonably short, and there's a lot of waiting. The prize is worthwhile. The KSM deposit is one of the largest metal deposits in the world. And an Eskay Creek deposit that was mined for years by Barrick. Barrick took over Homestake to get their hands on the Eskay deposit, and it had an average gold grade of 49 grams per ton.
That's huge.
Over the life of the mine, and 2,200 grams per ton of silver. Yeah. So some of the richest, some of the biggest metal deposits in the world. It's absolutely an incredibly rich area.
What do you think are some of the because there's an opportunity there. What do you think are some of the challenges, and do some of those challenges come as being also kind of opportunities as well, like moving forward?
The biggest challenge is, well, the seasonality, but kind of connected with that is it's bloody expensive to operate up there.
Yes.
And MTB, for example, we in effect we kind of bet the company on a drill program. We got great results. We proved there's a huge porphyry deposit there, but the world was anticipating spectacular results, and we only delivered great.
Yes.
So we were punished unmercifully.
Yes.
And so that's a challenge. And now we're in a situation where it's really expensive. We've got a low share price, and it kind of puts us in the position of having to get a partner or a strategic investor in some form to help carry the project through to the next level. And I think that's kind of applies to a lot of the companies that are operating up there.
Do you think that there's a bit of a, I mean, because say the retail crowd, is there a knowledge gap between, or expectation gap between what people would like to see and in reality, what, like the amount of work it takes to hit like fantastic numbers? Like you might get lucky and hit the first, drill program or second drill program, but it usually takes a bit of time and money.
No question, no question. It's a huge project, and we put 4 holes into it. We demonstrated it exists over 4 kilometers. It's got the scale that is of interest to the largest of the mining companies, but we didn't hit the bullseye with those first few holes.
Yeah.
And the market looked at it and said, "Oh, they missed." No, we didn't miss. We proved it's there, and we know where to go to hit the bullseye in the next round. But the challenge is finding the money to fund that next round.
That's a huge frustration, because at the same time, and I was saying when you were off a minute ago, is that there are, say, 1,000 other companies that are raising small amounts that are to some extent a wish and a prayer. Like they're like, hey, we think we might have something, let's poke a hole. And that money, even if it's just 200 grand or 400 grand, that could be focused more onto projects that are really, they're farther ahead. Let's just say they're much farther ahead. And maybe that's kind of what you were saying before, is that there's not a ton of money that's flowing into the space, and it's being spread out so diversely that, except if it's like a real humdinger where people get like pulled back a bit because they're like, oh, I really wanted this deal. Most of the deals aren't experiencing that, and it's lots of piecemeal here and there that would be better suited to projects that are hitting good numbers.
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge. And look, you can get good numbers on what will turn out to be a small project. And if you've got a small project, then what's your exit strategy?
Yes.
The junior exploration companies don't have a great record of evolving into mining companies.
Yes.
And unless it's got scale, the majors aren't going to pay much attention to it.
So that's a good point. And let's maybe because that kind of takes us into that conversation, which will get us to why Mountain Boy, as well as when you're looking at projects and the ones right from the get-go, when you had huge returns, what were some of the things that you could share with people and investors alike that go, what should I be looking at? What are some of the key variables I should target and hold management accountable for in order to identify something that could, not guarantee, but potentially become something? And this was a good hint that, yeah, you might hit some good numbers, but the scale is too, it'd be almost better to be a private mine, take it off the market and someone mine it themselves, rather than we need scale, we need someone big to buy us, and they need tonnage.
Well, that's a good point. When I was doing the newsletter, and remember, my background is geology, and I've had decades in the mining industry. I've been all over the world looking at exploration projects, and I've toured around with some of the top geologists, mine finders in the business. And I think early on in the newsletter, I developed a sense of, would a project eventually evolve into something of scale? And the big successes that I had in the newsletter, the 10 for 1 or the 10 baggers, were primarily based on projects that evolved into, or had the potential to evolve into, world-class discoveries. And I was the first guy on the Pebble deposit, for example, which became massive. And Donlin Creek, when Rick Van Nieuwenhuis first acquired or took control of Nova Gold, got the Donlin Creek deposit, I went up with him, and I could see right from the get-go that thing had scale to be a multiple tens of millions of ounce deposit. And that's kind of where I focused in the newsletter, was these things that had that really large scale potential. So when I got involved in MTB Metals, that's what I was focused on, the Golden Triangle, because it's a geological environment that has that potential. And in particular on these projects, we put the Telegraph project together specifically because we saw the potential for it to evolve into a cluster of world-class porphyries. And we've demonstrated, yes, that is the case. But unfortunately, didn't get it quite to the point where we were able to prove that.
Is it that porphyries too? I mean, they're like it's a mixed edged sword. It's like if you find one, that's incredible because it could mean a very big system. But at the same time, they do often take a lot of money. Is that a fair assessment, or is that like I hear that
No,
like not
that's
true?
exactly right.
Oh, it is
Exactly.
right. Okay, yeah.
The biggest copper deposits in the world and many of the biggest gold deposits in the world are porphyries. They have incredible size. But with that size comes the obligation to spend a lot of money to delineate them. And it's not really in the realm of juniors to be able to delineate a porphyry deposit. And that's why we're actively engaged with the majors now to get their deep pockets and their expertise to help advance it to the next stage.
Yes, I mean that's where it's like I imagine if you're in conversations, like it's one of those things. If there was a bit more budget and you were able to deliver a few more holes to help define it, that would go a long way as well.
Well, and that's the other side of our approach right now is we're working with a couple of different investment groups that recognize the potential and can see that another season in the field would add enormous value to the project and put us in a much stronger position to deal with the majors a year from now as opposed to doing a deal now.
Yes, yes. Well, okay, that's an interesting topic then. What do you think? Because I get a sense from a lot of people, and maybe I want to be delusionally happy, that a lot of people are optimistic about 2025 for our sector. And now overall economy, I don't know, but there seems to be some optimism on the higher end of the talking heads out there, or the people that have had a lot of experience in the market saying they think there could be good things coming. What's your thoughts?
Oh, I totally agree. I think there's going to be very good things coming. Now, just qualify that by saying I don't think we're going to see the tide rise and lift the entire industry.
Yeah.
But there's going to be, and there is a fair amount of money coming into the industry right now, but it's coming in big chunks from very sophisticated investors targeted to particular projects. And I think it's going to continue to be like that. There is going to be money for good projects and good companies to continue to advance. And I think those companies that generate results are going to be rewarded by investors in the short term and by takeover offers in the longer term. So we talked briefly about the takeovers that have happened and the billions of dollars that have been freed up to come back in.
Yes.
And I think that money is beginning to come back into the market. And I think it's going to be very beneficial to the market over the coming months.
And out of say 2,500 that we've said kind of juniors, what would you say? And I don't want to be too critical or harsh. Like if someone was to put a little effort in and say, looked, said, hey, Lawrence, tell me a little bit what I should look for. I should probably look for good management, some assays results that are strong, that are good indicators. How many of those companies with just putting a little bit of effort could you kind of wash away saying, I don't have to look too much further at this to narrow down the scope? And not naming names or anyone, but like
I don't want to put a specific number on it.
No.
And I don't want to get trash my colleagues in the industry here.
No, that's not fair.
I would say the majority of the companies, if they don't have a project that has large scale potential or they have a lot of money in the bank, they're going to really struggle.
Yes.
Because I don't think we're going to see that influx of retail investors that are going to lift the whole sector anytime soon.
Yeah.
The money that's coming in is looking for projects that have very large potential, that, company making potential that are going to be targets for majors.
Yes.
And if you don't have that, it's going to be a struggle.
Now, here's a question. Do companies that have, say, projects that maybe don't on the standalone basis or don't have that scale, but they are close to existing mines, but they're like, hey, we're hitting good numbers. Are they kind of like the second tier, would you say? Like they're kind of like, here's the A massive scale, or would you say no? If you've got something you're hitting and it's close to a producer, would that also kind of fly in that top category?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
and definitely, and that's a very good point. And it comes back to the same premise, which is the exit strategy. You can only use the greater fool theory to a certain extent, and at the end of it, you've got to have somebody come along and write a check to buy all the shares in the company.
Yeah.
And those checks are going to come from the large mining companies. So they're either going to take a standalone large scale opportunity, or they're going to take something that's going to be accretive to one of their existing operations.
And you touched on something too, because we're called the market mindset for a reason, and I wanted to ask you about your mindset as it applies to this market, and also you've seen generations of investors, and unfortunately, some have come in at the wrong time. They've been burned. They maybe got into the exploration game on the wrong reason. Like they think, oh, there's a huge win here, and they get in and they don't realize, well, wait a second, this is not easy stuff. This is like, you may have hit a market where everything's going up and bought something that isn't going to work out, or the flip side being a lot in the 2000 say 13 and on, where people are like, I know I've got a good asset, you've got good results, and the market's not responding, and I'm going crazy. So what do you think it takes to be an investor in this? What kind of mindset, and you yourself, I mean, you're obviously drawn to this kind of arduous, difficult market for a reason. Maybe kind of give us that mindset a little bit.
It's definitely more speculation than it is investing. It's gambling. It's a roll of the dice. But unlike a crap table where your odds are set in advance, you can adjust your odds in this sector. If you go into the sector and buy companies at random, your chance of success are slim to nil.
Yeah.
But if you do some homework, and there's some good sources of information out there that can help you, look for companies that have got good assets, that have potential, that the people know what they're doing, and buy a portfolio of them. So don't put don't throw the whole wad on one company, but spread it across a few companies that have all got good basic fundamentals behind them in terms of project, people, and location, and ride a portfolio. And something else a lot of people do is they trade in and out of a particular company. So keep a core position, but if you see a run up in the price, take some profits, and then when it drops back, reload.
Yes.
And by doing that, you can enhance your position. And a lot of people end up in a situation where they're basically riding a position for free.
Yes. That's a really good point to make to people that are getting into this as well, is that there's a tendency, if they're new, to think, I want to find the one that's going to go up X%, so I better go all in. This one sounds good, and they get a little too excited. And whenever I was speaking with Victor Hagani, who was running long-term capital management, one of the founders there, he's made a good illustration that not only do you have to do your homework as far as risk identification, but also that bet size amount is critical in people's returns as well. Is you have to be careful, like build into a position, take some off the table, rather than jump all on in and then hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Being diversified is key, but diversify wisely. And it's sort of an interesting game. Your upside basically is infinite. And I use the example of Great Bear, that if you got in at the right time on that one, you got a 19,000% return.
Yeah.
$10,000 became $1.9 million. And so with an open-ended upside, now the flip side of it is your downside is 100% loss.
Yeah.
But the odds are clearly in your favor to make a lot of money if you can spread across a few companies and one or two of them becomes reasonably successful.
And is your kind of thesis or theory too, if you're an investor and say someone who's brand new and they're looking, is you take the baby steps, you pick out 10 that you've identified that you really like, you like the management, you like the project, you like the metal. And let's just take, we got $100, you put $10 on each one you like, and then you reward the ones that are like they get good results. They don't have to be knocking out of the park. Doesn't have to be, hey, we hit the mother load, but no, the management said that they're going to do. I'll look at it again and just kind of reward that way. Is that a good strategy?
Yes, it is. But being very cautious here, don't reward them just because the share price has gone up.
Yes.
Reward them because they've accomplished what they said they would accomplish.
Yes.
And that means following the company. And look, another really important aspect here is in this industry, there are so many opportunities to get face-to-face with a management team. Like a lot of the CEOs will take your phone call and discuss with you. But even more to the point, there are a lot of conferences where you can get into a room and meet management of 100 or more companies, or pick any ones that you want to meet with in a day. And you know, in Vancouver, of course, we're the center of the universe for junior mining. In the month of January, there's 3 really excellent conferences coming up. There's VRIC, Metals Investors Forum, and Roundup, all taking place in January in Vancouver. And of course, there's PDAC coming up in March in Toronto. All of these are opportunities where you can get face-to-face with management. You know, grill them, ask them the tough questions. And I highly encourage everybody considering this sector, develop your short list, but before you commit, get on the phone, talk to them. You know, get a really good sense of what they're doing and the mindset of the management team.
That's a great point. And like, if you are in a venture cap, say tech fund in San Francisco, and you have the luxury of living there, and it's very unlikely. I won't say never. You're probably never going to speak to anyone. They're not going to talk to you. They're too busy. They've got things to do. They're raising money. They're whatever. They will take your call here. And if it isn't the CEO president, they might have an IR person. They'll explain exactly whatever question you have. And then, of course, if you happen to live in Toronto or if you happen to live in Vancouver, January and then March are incredible times to be able to come down for free. We'll come to one of these shows face to face with someone and just say, hey, I was looking at your news release. You said this, this, and this. Why is the stock at this? It's a great opportunity. Never mind, there's tons of resources on YouTube. You type in the company, watch an interview with, say, yourself about MTB. These are all good resources, but if people could come out and physically come to one of these shows, it's an eye opener. It's pretty cool.
Yes, for sure. And look, at another kind of rant of mine about the industry in general is that so many of these companies, when they put out their news releases and they put out their corporate information and their displays at their booths at the conferences, it's all focused on geochemistry and geophysics and geology. And they kind of take the mindset that they need to educate investors to become geologists to understand what they're doing. And I think a much better approach from...
Oh no, we're going to hear a better approach. And we'll get him back. We'll get him back. This is a cliffhanger for everybody. And I'm sure Lawrence will be back, but I don't want to anticipate which direction he's going. Although I think I do, but this is what's so valuable about speaking to someone who's intimately aware of the industry and the sector, has had huge success. Like, once again, if you go to Resource Opportunities and look at the old newsletter, they have a page right there of past wins. That is pretty cool to see some of the companies that he had talked about, written articles about, were at events with, and they did staggeringly well. But now we're going to get out that cliffhanger answered from Lawrence back again. Thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah. Sorry, remind me where we dropped out.
You're talking about people trying to get too technical and like, listen, I want to tell you all about the geology, and I mean, you're a geologist. I want to show you this, to show you that, and sometimes retail investors might be like, oh, what? I don't know. Is it good? Like, what do I know?
Exactly. And look, with my decades of experience in this industry, I read some of these news releases and I think, what the hell does that mean?
Yes, thank
And
you.
if I can't figure it out, the average investor is not going to have any idea what it means. And I think as an industry, we need to do a much better job of communicating the business case as opposed to trying to educate people about geology and geophysics and geochemistry. And so from an investor, I think the approach is to find teams where you've got good geological expertise in the company and just rely on them to make the decisions and rely on their interpretations.
And that is really how it has to be, because there are too many people too that jump onto forums because they want to push the stock down, or they're trading it daily or whatever, and it can become confusing very quickly. And I think if you look at a project and you find, listen, I like copper, I like silver, I like whatever it happens to be. I like the region you're in. I think there's infrastructure, there's this and this and this. Is that it's not terribly difficult to go, I think these are good results, but I'm not sure. You can call, like, once again, you could call, say, Lawrence and go, hey, Lawrence, send you an email. I saw your news release. Are these actually good results? And they're going to say, yes, it's not, I can't give you an economic thing, but yes, these are good. This is the range at which is considered good. And that is a good, that's about as far, I would say, that most investors need to be to kind of go, okay, I'm interested.
Yes. And look, in terms of these forums, there's a lot of misinformation that goes through in the forums, and you got to be, it's, in my view, it's not a great source of objective information about companies. That you're way better off to contact the company directly, or look, there's some great resources out there as well. There's some newsletters that follow the sector that are objective and knowledgeable.
I mean, people like yourself, we try to interview people too that are going to tell people flat out, here's the things you should look for. We have Carl from Mining Hub. They post data in there as well. So someone could go click and go, oh, here's the width, here's the grade. I think that looks good. And then they can go in, at least to go, out of 1,000 companies that I'm looking at, these ones have hit some numbers. I should maybe look into them a bit further. And then they can find out, is there tonnage? Is there not tonnage? Are they doing this and that? And at least that can narrow down in people's heads and kind of get the brain percolating. Okay, these companies seem to be doing a lot of drilling, seem to be doing a lot of work. They've got good assays. What's the holdup? What's the issue? And oftentimes, if it's just, well, we just need more money, it's a terrible situation to be in. But as far as problems go, like when you're getting good results and you need money, that's a lot better than, oh, we have some money, but we're not getting any results.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of the things then for this next year? I mean, basically, we've got a month to go here, that people should be looking for, and without kind of giving away 30 years of your knowledge, what are some things that someone is a retail investor, they're getting excited, they think, okay, I think there's an opportunity 2025. I see all these big deals getting done. What are some of the criteria, just in a kind of a macro or a bigger sense, just so they can categorize it, write it down to go, what's, if I want to hone in on some of these companies, what's a good start? What's a good way to go?
Well, a broad comment first. We're heading into that ugly time of year called tax loss selling.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Now, if you're a shareholder in a company that's facing tax loss selling, it's bloody awful.
Yeah.
But if you're an investor with some money looking to get into the industry, it's a tremendous opportunity.
Yes.
Now, just back to what I was saying, management teams that know what they're doing, locations where the majors are likely wanting to invest, and projects that have the potential to have the scale that will attract, at the end of the day, a major company participation.
This is why it's good having you on too, because here's a company who has good results, and you're in talks with many companies. I would say that if you're in a company that you feel hasn't been as responsive to you, or they've underwhelmed the market, and once again, I use the word reward them by reinvesting, is that maybe that's when you take a loss and you look at a company that has good results and go, listen, this thing I can pick off here at a pretty good price here. Let me do a little work into MTB and Lawrence and see is this guy, this guy knows what he's talking about. Well, I should take a peek. That's what's scary about this time of year, but also incredibly exciting about this time of year.
No, that's right. That's right. And look, I have no intention here of pitching any particular company. I'm involved in a bunch of them.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm excited. And all through the time that I was doing the newsletter, a big part of what I was doing was what I call missionary work, which is just trying to educate the investing public in terms of what this industry is, what it does, and the potential and the risks and the rewards. I highly encourage you to build a portfolio, spread it out, get a few companies, but take advantage of low points like this, and load up, build a position. There's companies that are going to look like they're tremendous bargains, but if they don't have the assets, and they don't have cash in the bank, they're going to have a hard time acquiring the assets that are going to give them that upside potential.
Now, are you agnostic about different metals, or you're in your heart of hearts, you love the gold, silver, copper, or what do you think, will battery metals, lithium, what's your take on that? If they're kind of bouncing around thinking, should I be playing different metals? What should I be looking at?
Well, first of all, I would encourage anybody not to play a metal, but to invest knowledgeably in a company that has a business plan.
Yes.
And look, I can say this in retrospect, of course, but when the whole battery metal thing started to take off a few years ago, and lithium in particular started to get very exciting. I mean, the first thing I did is went back to my old geology textbooks and how much lithium is there in the universe. And lithium is one of the more common elements in the Earth's crust. And I said, okay, there's a lot of lithium around. And sure enough, there was that flurry of excitement. And then the world realized there's a lot of lithium around. And the price came back to a reasonable level. And I think that's going to be the case with a lot of the minor metals. They're not driven so much by demand and supply as by sentiment. And gold, silver, copper, I love because there's good solid fundamentals and long track records, and copper in particular, where we've got the electrification thing happening. And even if the electrification doesn't materialize as much as we anticipate, demand for copper has been steadily increasing for years. It will continue. If we see anything like the level of electrification that people are looking for, that's a doubling of demand for copper in a couple of decades. And to take an entire industry as big as the copper mining industry and double that, and you can't just build a copper mine. You need to find a deposit to build a copper mine on. And that's where the juniors come in. And that's why the majors are clamoring right now to find that next generation of mine that's going to carry them into the years going forward.
And that's, I think, if I'm kind of reading it correctly too, is that's what makes this, although we have lots of challenges right now, and a lot of people are struggling with the economy and whatnot. The miners, like I said, their cash flow is great. They're performing. They've done very well, and they're very cognizant of they have to replace those ounces that are gone. I mean, you dig them up, you spent, they're gone, and they need to go find new ones. And hopefully we'll see a deployment of that capital in 2025. And boy, it doesn't take a lot of money, or even I would say the required amount to do the electrification story, to get it into this sector like that. Like, it's tough to get the amount of money into there, and that means stocks do rise pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. The sector is so tiny that a tiny percentage shift of investment capital into the sector can drive it crazy.
I love how you phrase it over Bitcoin too. Like, and this is, once again, I'm not taking a shot at Bitcoin, but this is a concept. It's a virtual asset, and it's bigger than the entire sector. Like, that is baffling because, as you mentioned, everything we do, whether it's energy to every technology we use, that's mining, all of it. So you can't even have your Bitcoin virtual currency without mining. Yet it's bigger than that entire sector. It's insane.
Yes.
But that's where the opportunity is. I mean, Warren Buffett would say you look for unloved, uncared for sectors, and if you've got the grit and you've got that mindset, it can work out very well. And you are proof in the pudding of that, because you've done it so many times before, over different periods of times, and that's a big part that we wanted on, is someone who's done it, they've seen it, and we need to reassure people right now that we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know what happens tomorrow, but that there's a sense it's coming.
Yes. There's no question. Look, every market cycle, at the bottom of the cycle, people are going, "Oh, woe is me! It'll never come back. It's never going to see it again." And look, I've been through, call it 4 cycles now, where you see this incredibly negative sentiment. But I look at all the people around me, and I look at a time like this in the market cycle, and then people that are buying, and these are the people that own the big expensive houses in Vancouver, because they load up at the bottoms of the cycles, and they take advantage of the flurry of activity, the mania that happens at the tops of the cycles, and they lock in those profits. So if you follow the cycles, if you work with the cycles, you can make a lot of money in this sector.
Well, that's a great way to leave this off. I really appreciate you taking the time here, Lawrence. This kind of wisdom, experience, and knowledge, it's what's needed. And we need people to be reminded that it's a bit gritty right now, but there's a huge opportunity. And hopefully those that have been in it and been through the struggles for a bit longer, they'll see a good return, because that's very heartening, not only psychologically, but for the wallet and the checkbook. But we'll leave you with the kind of final kind of paragraph here to kind of wrap up things as where you see things ending and 2025 looking for the whole sector.
Well, 2025 is going to look very good for the sector overall. As I said at the outset, I don't think we're going to see the tide rising and lifting everything, at least not in the near term, maybe eventually. But there are incredible opportunities right now, stocks trading at nothing, that have great projects and a lot of value-added potential. So it's a great opportunity to get involved. Tax loss selling is going to even, that the share prices are going to get even more attractive over the next little while. So load up at this opportune time, but do it very selectively.
Perfect. Well, Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to keep in touch with you over the next into the new year, and we'll keep our eyes open for all the projects you're involved in. And we're looking forward to 2025 as well. And thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. It's greatly appreciated.
Look forward to keeping in touch, Andrew. You've got a great knowledge in the sector, and it's always fun talking with you.
Thanks so much, Lawrence. All the best, and have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks. Bye.